Joining us to discuss, Congressman Chip Roy, who is also running for Texas Attorney General. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you guys.
So I understand a subpoena is meant to get information. You don't know everything yet, but I'm a little confused. Based on what we've learned to date, it seems like this is mainly a law enforcement failure. There was a lot of evidence that Epstein was a bad guy, a creep, a predator, and he got a favorable plea deal. Is this effort to get information from the banks based on a suspicion that actually it was a failure to report problems about him, possibly unrelated to the sexual predation?
Well, the good news is you've got Republicans that have been engaging hard. Jamie Comer's been doing a great job in oversight with 13 subpoenas, getting 65,000 pages of information, a lot of it very revealing, including, for example, having Delegate Plaskett from the U.S. Virgin Islands, who was literally texting with Epstein in the middle of an oversight committee hearing, frankly, while I was asking questions, believe it or not, of Michael Cohen, which is very concerning in terms of she knew that he was a convicted pedophile. She was engaging with it anyway. But all of this activity by Republicans is uncovering how much we've got a lot of networks that were involved with all of this, banks, financial records. Jamie's doing the right thing, pursuing those subpoenas. We don't want any of the powerful individuals and the power brokers to run away from this thing without being held accountable. So we're seeking the truth wherever it may lead. And look, what we've been trying to do, and the reason that it took a little while to get it passed, we passed it out of the House, the Senate, it's now on the president's desk, is just to make sure that none of the victims, there's over almost 1,000 victims, make sure that they were protected through this whole process, make sure that we're going after the rich and powerful who abuse them. And I think we're heading down that road, and we'll see what more evidence it turns up as the administration continues to investigate, and so does the Oversight Committee here on Capitol Hill.
Congressman Roy, I want to ask you a little bit more about the forthcoming release of what we expect to be more of these Epstein files, as that bill is now headed over to the White House, or perhaps it's there already waiting for President Trump's signature. And the White House has indicated that President Trump will sign the release so we can see more of these files. What exactly do you want folks to kind of be prepared for? How should we, think about the release of these records? Some people might point out, these documents that are going to come out, it's not necessarily evidence of things. These are interviews. This is a collection of information. Some of it could be hearsay. He said, she said. So how would you kind of couch what we are about to receive?
Well, this is just another step in ensuring that we're going to get greater transparency. And I think the president has been clear from the beginning that he wanted full transparency. So have House Republicans, Senate Republicans. Now passing this legislation, it's another step. But look, we have to continue to go through the process that any prosecutorial function goes through, or oversight function like we have on Capitol Hill. I'm a former prosecutor. You've got files, you've got information. Some of it points to someone you can indict, some of it doesn't. Some of it's information that will result in you being able to get a conviction in the end. Some of it isn't. You've got to be careful, obviously. In this case, you noted in the first question, we had some botched investigation by law enforcement 20 years ago, right? Ultimately, Epstein cut a deal, it goes to jail for a year, but that's now 20-year-old information. So we're now going through trying to put all that back together with the information that we've got in the files and then figuring out where to go with it. Remember, it was President Trump who indicted Epstein in 2019 under federal charges, and then ultimately got a conviction in pursuing, obviously, Ghislaine Maxwell as well. We were able to indict her, arrest her, and got a conviction. So these are all important things that the Trump administration has been doing, Republicans have been doing. The American people want to know that the power brokers, the rich and the powerful, can't get away with this sort of thing. That's what this is all about. But we have to do it the right way, following our standards and procedures to make sure we get it done properly to protect victims in the process.
Congressman, I wanted to move on to this issue of stock trading by lawmakers such as yourself, or perhaps not in your particular case, but I understand a lot of attention, and everyone maybe would love to have Nancy Pelosi's market returns over these many years. On the other hand, we would like lawmakers to be invested alongside the rest of us in the U.S. economy. There's a particular danger with a lawmaker, not just the insider trading possibility, but lawmakers can actually they can actually move these stocks by introducing legislation that's perceived to favor or threaten one industry or another. What is the answer, in your mind, to allow lawmakers to invest and have a stake in the U.S. like the rest of us, but not have a danger that they're either unfairly benefiting or possibly even manipulating the market.
Yeah, well, with Nancy Pelosi retiring, I just wonder how the American people are going to know what stocks to pick, right? Because following her investment is probably a good bet over the last few years. But it's actually, joking aside, it's a real problem. And, 5 years ago, I introduced legislation to prevent members of Congress from engaging in trading securities while they're members of Congress. And you made the really good point. It's not just about insider trading, right? That's a piece of it. But it's really more about whether our decision-making in Congress is being impacted by investments that any members of Congress hold. So if you come into Congress and you've got a big position in, say, Google or some large company, and we're having a debate in the Judiciary Committee on antitrust about whether we should break up a company, or maybe you owned a defense contractor and you sit on House Armed Services. Are you making really good decisions as you're an appropriator and you're making decisions, or are they personally enriching you? I think we should clear that. That's why the name of the legislation I introduced was the Restore Trust in Congress Act. I don't think members of Congress should be day trading. I think we should prevent it. And look, there's 330 million Americans. If you want to day trade, if you want to be able to actively trade, then don't run for Congress. I think we ought to limit it. I think we ought to pass a restriction. At a minimum, you've got to limit the buy side. Maybe you come in and you can hold your securities and have, significant amount of, public disclosure when you're selling. But whatever we do, we've got to end the madness. The American people are tired of watching members of Congress day trade, get rich, when the American people aren't in the positions of power that they hold.
And Congressman, I just want to point out, I was taking a look at some reports from Campaign Legal, which is a group that goes through and evaluates all these disclosures from members of Congress like yourself. And you're in the minority, according to them, one of the 5% of members of Congress that do not hold individual stocks and do not hold any widely traded funds like mutual funds. So you are in the minority in that respect. I do want to just switch gears quickly here and talk about something that's happening in your great state of Texas. Governor Abbott there is moving to designate two groups, the Muslim Brotherhood and also a group called CARE, as foreign terrorist organizations. These are Muslim groups. CARE describes itself as a Islamic civil rights type of organization. And I understand, Congressman, that you are fully supportive of this. You also want to end their tax-exempt status. Of course, designating them as foreign terrorist groups is something that the federal government has not taken a step to do. So I wonder, is there something that you and Governor Abbott have information to or privy to that maybe the federal government is not aware of, or anything you'd like to say about, supporting that effort from Governor Abbott?
Yeah, well, first of all, President Trump and his administration have been doing a great job. They declared Antifa a foreign terrorist organization. They declared cartels as terrorist organizations. So they're engaging in a lot of offense on these issues. On issues like this one in particular, it's directly affecting Texas in a very negative way. And Governor Abbott is absolutely correct to raise this up and to provide greater tools to be able to deal with these entities. Obviously, the Muslim Brotherhood is a problem, but so is CARE. Let's be very clear. We had an entity called the Holy Land Foundation, which 25 years ago was shown and was actually prosecuted for having ties to terrorist activities. One of their individuals, which is an unindicted co-conspirator, is now affiliated with CARE. Leadership of CARE was celebrating Hamas on October 7th when, they carried out the atrocities against Israel. There's loads of indications that CARE is neck deep involved with organizations that don't have our interests at stake and are tied to terrorist activities. So they should not have a tax beneficial status, a C3 status. So I filed legislation to get rid of that status. I filed legislation to say that we should vet people for their adherence to Sharia law because it's directly in conflict with Western civilization, our Constitution, and the rule of law. I'm tired of it. Governor Abbott's tired of it. Texas has a target on its back. There are people who want to Islamify Texas and the United States, and they're trying to do that. And Governor Abbott is saying, hey, we don't want any of that going on here in Texas. So we're going to continue to look at it. There were some articles just this week on the dollars that, with CARE and how they're tied to all sorts of nefarious activities. And I think we need to make sure that we follow this out to its conclusion. Governor Abbott's right.
You're absolutely right. And the New York Post just had an incredible article out about how CARE is giving money, paying students, the agitators on college campuses that were leading the anti-Israel protests, supporting them if they had suffered repercussions for that.
That's exactly the article.
It's a great point. Congressman Chip Roy, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Good to see you.
Thank you all. God bless.